Hi, my name's Jeff Newman. I'm the Business Development Officer at Sovreign. Sovreign is a Bitcoin-only consulting company made up by Bitcoiners, and we're here to help small businesses, entrepreneurs, you name it, become Bitcoiners and realize the value of integrating Bitcoin into their businesses. Today is Monday, July 21st. We're at block height 906544. Moscow time is 8:41 a.m., which is 841 sats per dollar. It's an inside joke. We're less than 1,000 days away from the next halvening. And if you're following price, we're at about $118,000, $119,000 per Bitcoin. So 906544 block time. Anyways, we'll start the episode. So Joe, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I guess just kind of the intro is I live in New York City. I have the X account at BTCYN, which is BTC forward, NYC backwards, sharing the C. And if you read it, it's like saying the word Bitcoin minus the vowels and having a Y in there. So it's kind of a cool brand. I've used that X account as a way to learn about Bitcoin. And I just took off the anonymous profile pic this last weekend. I had a laser eyes, grinning Jack Nicholson. I have liked and retweeted all Signal. If you're on Bitcoin X, I've liked and retweeted anything that I've looked at. It's just a way of absorbing, learning, and following and connecting with people. And a little bit of my intro is, we're in July of 2025. I started the year saying I have to work in Bitcoin. How do I take my traditional background and apply it to Bitcoin? And that's how I found Sovreign, which instead of going to a Deloitte or whatever, it's a professional services consulting company made up of Bitcoiners. And so it was Bitcoin only. And I was able to find it and reach out to people and find a role in it. And I've been doing business development this whole year. And so, Joe, you were with Sovreign before I joined.
Yes.
And the reason we're having this podcast today is, coincidentally, you're traveling through New York City. Mm-hmm. I live in New York, so I'm your host. I come to PubKey whenever I can. And I was researching podcast studios in New York and just realized that, hey, upstairs, this is a studio that's available for rent. Reach out to PubKey. And I was like, we have to get to know each other on a podcast.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
We need batting practice. We need to practice podcasts, but also we need to tell our story and, reach out to people. So, Joe, tell me about your Bitcoin story, but also like, how did you find Sovreign and what was it like being a founding member?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. Yeah. This has been quite an experience being a Bitcoiner and seeing PubKey from afar on X and Instagram and everything else. Never thought I'd actually physically be here from being in Kentucky. The idea of flying out here and being here, just it's such an amazing experience, such an amazing place. And this podcasting room is incredible. And so if anyone is interested in doing it, this is the place to go if you want a high quality podcast. These guys are great. And on top of that, we're here, my daughters, I have my two daughters with me. They're both in high school. They're soccer players. They're here for a recruiting trip upstate New York. And the idea of helping this next generation of not just people, but athletes and businesses adopt Bitcoin is kind of why I got into this as one of the big things. As your savings can go further as you save in Bitcoin, athletes have a limited window of where they can make their money. And what better way to make the most of their purchasing power long term than to get into Bitcoin? We see a lot of NIL deals and everything else for athletes coming on. This is a great idea. If your career is 1 year or 20 years, Bitcoin can be the thing that really helps you and progresses your purchasing power throughout the next couple of years. How I got into Bitcoin, I spent most of my career in the military, and I heard about Bitcoin. I want to say I heard like the Winklevoss twins one day on a TV show, and I was like, I don't even know what Bitcoin is. I don't have time to worry about this. I'm in the military. It's not something that's going to happen. And then one day I started listening a little harder. And that's when I started reading and doing the research like a lot of people. I got tired of not knowing about Bitcoin. That might be a little different than some people have felt like with their journey. Like sometimes they have like a mentor who brought them in or somebody in the financial industry who's kind of shaped that for them. I just got sick and tired of not knowing something. This is before AI, so I couldn't just pop it in like ChatGPT or something like that. I actually had to do the work, read Saifedean's books, Bitcoin Standard, Fiat Standard, The Price of Tomorrow. I mean, I could go on and on, right? So many great authors, Lynn Alden, and it just could go on forever about that. So I started studying it, reading it. I started seeing the impact that fiat has on the world, and being in the military, like I've seen some of that firsthand of, what does a forever war do when you're continuously printing and you're going through forever wars? What does the impact of people in other countries who are on the receiving end, a lot of this impact, they have no way of saving their bank accounts, if they had any, especially in like Afghanistan, for example, were cut off by the Taliban. Or how do we save if I have there's not any, forget a bank account. I don't have a bank because it's all destroyed, right? We're living, we're trying to help rebuild the community by giving them dollars. And those dollars are quickly confiscated because I got nowhere to place it, right? Yeah. So this really opened my eyes, not just to finance, but to the world, and I kind of see how Bitcoin could make the world a better place. I was trying to find my role within Bitcoin, and I don't have the experience or the knowledge that Jack Mallers has, or any of those outstanding people who've been in the business forever. So how do I get myself involved? I'm not a programmer. I'm not a software developer. How can I find a space in Bitcoin? And so through Daniel Frank, who I met, instead of trying to find a job in Bitcoin, we decided to create a job in Bitcoin, create our own business. We started to think, hey, we're seeing more adoption. We're seeing what MicroStrategy's doing, now Strategy, obviously. We see MetaPlanet, which was still kind of just coming along. We figure it's a matter of time before businesses kind of catch on and say, hey, if I save even 3% of my cash in Bitcoin, I can actually beat inflation by 10%. Whereas if all of my cash is in cash, I'm actually losing 20% of my purchasing power. So we got in probably a little earlier than, as we see now, the market's kind of taking off with businesses announcing, it seems like every day, that they're adopting a Bitcoin treasury plan. And through that, I think we got in a little early, but now I think even though we started early, we're building I have the building blocks in place.
Can I hop in there?
Yeah.
So this is great. You mentioned some people are builders where they build technology companies, and I'm a bridge builder where I've been, in sales, software as a service, and consulting, and then building businesses, right? And like how to build operations and hire people and so forth, and make sure it's quality Bitcoiners and so forth, and then also partnerships. So what's interesting is my experience, and I was about to write a summary this summer to be like, okay, reflection, 6 months into the Bitcoin industry, what have I learned? And we're early, but I don't know, it's 2025, and yes, we're in an echo chamber, we're in the signal. But you step out on the street and most people, they just did a survey. Cornell did a survey, and most people don't know Bitcoin has a hard cap, and people have heard about it. I think River just published. They do these great anonymous, like these types of businesses have adopted it, and and so. But they also did this thing where if you Google how many SMBs, small medium-sized businesses, are in America, you'll get 33 million. Yeah. Okay, but then River had this thing said, there's only like 10,000, not 10 million, but 10,000. Small businesses, private enterprises, estimated to have adopted Bitcoin so far. And so we say that we're early. I don't want to, but we have to get started, and we have to do our marketing, our promotion, and our education. Yep. It's such a huge opportunity. So like this year, I was like, I'm going to work in Bitcoin. I'm going to go to Michael Saylor's Strategies, Bitcoin for Corporations conference. Even before I joined Sovreign, I'm like, I'm just going to go because enough of watching the YouTube videos and first 2 years were virtual. This was the third year in person, so fifth year, I believe. So I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna show up. And again, you've got the highest minded finance, corporate treasury, publicly traded companies, and we know the names MetaPlanet and Strategy and so forth. And it's amazing to watch these people. But I'm like, the opportunity for private small businesses, and as simple as just save in Bitcoin. Yeah. And so it's it's like we're early, it's 2025, but I think between 2025 and 2030, 5 or 6 years, we're going to see a huge uptick. I think when the price goes up, number go up, that's actually free marketing. Like people get excited and, they come to us. But yeah, it's interesting where just saving in Bitcoin as an owner operator of a small business, before you even get to like treasury strategies and so forth, can be the difference between staying in business and going out of business. And I'm thinking to myself, we try to orange pill and help our family and friends. We try to do it for free. An epiphany I had, and I tweeted a while back, was what if you're the one person that your family and friends doesn't want to hear it from because they know you, or they're biased against you, or they remember you as a child,
Yeah.
And it's like, and so it's one of these things where like, okay, in the Bitcoin community, we all have family and friends and we all know business owners. Who can we refer the task of orange pilling, which is a journey, by the way, based on where the customer is, their maturity, what's the right use case, what's the adoption and the education. And so who is a trusted Bitcoin consulting advisory organization, and then also can refer the customer, the business owner and operator to the right exchange to buy the Bitcoin, or to the right, custody providers, and to stay out of all the traps and not make the mistakes and stay out of the casino. And I really do think that's where Sovreign shines.
Yeah. Well, I do want to bring up two things and backtrack a little bit first, because you make a great point. But one, you decided to get into Bitcoin, like you're just going to do it, right? And I think Jack Mallers, every time they ask him, how's he a CEO of two companies? He goes, I just am. You can just do things, right? But that's the first thing is you have to do something. You take the first step and then kind of go from there. So I think that as simple as that phrase is, it carries so much weight, because we can talk about stuff all day long. And I think for a long time as Bitcoiners, we've talked about what we would like to see, but there were very few doers who actually went out there and tried to make stuff happen. And now you're seeing a lot of those who went out there and made those impacts, like the Bitcoin Policy Institute and others, who are making an impact. So I think that's great, and I think hopefully more people follow like your lead, our lead. The other thing, I definitely want to give a shout out to Brandon Carpeles. He's our CEO. When Daniel and I start this up, I would say my experience was more operations and partnerships. Like I can talk to people, I can build some relationships. We had Daniel, who's a great marketer, great with all that. What we wanted, and for us, as we saw. Again, it was early when we started, but we're starting to see the adoption grow now. We wanted someone with the business expertise, the business development expertise, like yourself, like Brandon, like Riley. I mean, others, I could go on forever, who could take us farther than me and Daniel could. So I say that because you may not be like the perfect business person. You may not be the perfect anything, but if you have an idea, start it. And then let it grow. It doesn't have to be a completed project or product. Start the business, get it rolling, bring on great people like yourself, like Brandon, who know what they're doing, who know how to generate revenue, contacts, and have those insider contacts. And then you can take a step back. Like right now, I'm an advisor on the team, like on the board, so to speak, right? You guys run the day-to-day. And it's gone farther than I could have ever imagined, or farther than I could have personally taken it. So I do want to say thank you.
Oh, 100%. So Brandon's our CEO, and he comes from a TradFi, used to be a banker for distressed assets, which basically watched good, well-meaning businesses fall into debt traps. And they were financially illiterate, so they didn't know the trap they were in. And it's just really heartbreaking. So yeah, our CEO is a great person to talk about like TradFi and then bridge it into the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah.
We also have Jeremy. He used to be 15 years on JP Morgan Wall Street. And I've been in meetings with him where we're talking to new companies who are going to capitalize and start on the Bitcoin standard. And we're having conversations where, I mean, the word trusted advisor is an understatement. Shout out to Brandon too, because this year Sovreign was invited, our CEO was invited to go speak at Bitcoin Prague, which is huge, right? So we have representation in Prague. We went to these major conferences, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas and so forth.
Isn't his office, don't we have an office inside the strategy headquarters?
Okay, so
to speak.
Quick tangent. John Balcom is a DC local. I'm a New York City local, and Ed Julian had put out a thing saying MicroStrategy strategy now is opening up the 6th floor for a co-working space for Bitcoin only companies. And I had identified this like, I think on a Wednesday night, and they're like, if you don't apply by Thursday, you missed the first cohort. So John and I applied, and basically the point was they vetted us. They said, you have to be Bitcoin only, be on the mission. John got interviewed by Ed and I think Fong Lee, in the executives, the CEO, and we got accepted. So Sovreign is one of only 20 companies that gets access to a co-working space in Strategy's headquarters. Late April, John and I met in real life. I went down to DC. I got to go to the opening. Michael Saylor gave a speech. Fong Lee was there. Everyone's approachable. I mean, I'm in a huddle and Matt Pine shows up and I'm like, oh, like I've listened to hours and hours of your podcasts. In my mind, you're my friend. You don't know me, but it's just like these people are right there. And then I went to the strategy conference in Orlando. So I'm like, oh, I've just seen Michael Saylor in real life twice in 2 calendar weeks. This is amazing. And just like, I'm going to work in Bitcoin this year. I got a selfie with Max Kaiser at the Bitcoin conference.
Nice.
I met Adam back at Pomp's conference, investor conference in late February, right when I was getting started. Another thing is this podcast. So Sovreign has a Bitcoin for Business podcast, and it is a platform for Bitcoin businesses to talk about their success with Bitcoin. And the host is Brandon. But we're also doing internal episodes where internal Sovreign team members get to talk to each other. And so that's what this is. But it's a platform, not just for Bitcoin businesses, but also our customers to say, okay, you have adopted Bitcoin. To what capacity do you feel comfortable sharing your story, your live case study? Because you can get traffic, differentiate yourself, promote yourself. So again, we have this open invitation for Bitcoin for Business. All topics are fair game. We've had really good guests so far. There's the Colorado wine guy.
Oh yeah, and I saw Eric Yakes. He was on as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got on some pretty good guests.
Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize too. I mean, the one of the best parts about the company, because I think what we're going to see, and we're probably starting to see this a lot more now, is going to be crypto advisors, right? They're going to be people popping up talking about Solana or XRP or Ethereum. And personally, I think a lot of people are going to lose money going to people like that who are going to talk it up, right? Who don't necessarily understand Bitcoin. But with guys like Brandon and others and yourself, Jeremy, these are Bitcoin only guys who are also traditional finance background. So, I think that was an interesting part for me is when we were doing these interviews, again, I'm in Kentucky, so I'm not surrounded by a ton of financial professionals like, maybe New York City or other places. So as I was talking to the people we were interviewing, I was amazed by, hey, these guys are coming from like legitimate, like huge traditional finance businesses. And in my mind, I'm thinking those are the least likely people who are interested in Bitcoin because that's all you hear, right? Like, well, JP Morgan or whatever, we're not going to buy Bitcoin. But here we got guys who are not only in that arena who can speak that same language of fiat, right? But now they're actually Bitcoin experts and they are financial experts. And so they can help talk to not just, the small mom and pop shops or just the small businesses, medium businesses. They can talk to a CEO of a large business. They can talk to a large scale business. They can talk to, the financial officer and everything else. So I think the makeup of our team and our leadership is just phenomenal. And it really doesn't matter what questions you do have, if it's taxes, if it's financial planning, if it's treasury assets, there's a person on a team who can walk you through all of that. So there's no, hey, sorry, we don't do that. Let me send you to another business down the street. It's, we're the one-stop shop with, if you picture like a hub and spoke model, you come to us, you can go to all of our business partners, which you see on our website and everything else. So who they are. Oh, this is a trusted name. I've heard this. Oh, I've seen these guys. Yeah, these are legitimate businesses. And I think that is so important because our credibility and our partnerships, I think, have to be absolutely vetted and of the highest quality because you're talking putting real money down on this.
Bitcoin is the filter. Mm-hmm. And then to really validate that you've done your work, your proof of work is, did you come to the conclusion Bitcoin only? And that's the filter at Sovreign. We put out I put out Bitcoiner jobs role for some new like hunters, salespeople to help find us new business and go into new sectors and case studies. The applications, the minute I saw Web3, I was like, oh yeah, what do you mean by that? I'd press on a little bit. What's your favorite crypto, bro? And again, there's no good answers. You've already lost. I mean, you're not, and I'm, but it was just interesting. I was like, okay, the filter is if you're using buzzwords like Web3, you're not one of us.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's Bitcoin, not blockchain, Reed Parker Lewis. And so basically like the value prop of the Sovreign team is like, yeah, there's these people from traditional backgrounds, but we're 1 in a billion. Mm-hmm. Good luck finding a Bitcoiner, a true Bitcoiner. And if you want a chief Bitcoin officer, we talk about there's the fractional CFO, right? Like, okay, like you could have a retainer for Bitcoin expertise. And we would love to be this, the seeding ground where Sovreign people end up becoming on the, the next treasury people. Right?
Yeah.
Like that would be cool. So just job creation, also just helping plebes too, like some of the technical people. Again, I'm not that technical, so I know when to ask for help. But we have technical people who will help you, take self-sovereignty, set up a node, set up a lightning channel, hardware wallets, roll-in dice, multi-institutional custody, all these things with the right partners, options, lay out the hardware recommendations, all these things. So we do have technical people that will hold your hand, and some of us are technical, some are not, but it's still Bitcoin only. So We're going to keep you out of the traps. And I think that's a big thing part of my story about finding Sovreign. I don't remember if it was a Google search, but I went to like Bitcoin magazine and I searched consulting. And I remember there's like 15, 16 years of articles. And so there's this one article from 2012. It was a Bitcoin only consulting company, the first of its kind. I forgot the name. It's out of business now. Mm-hmm. And it was, the article is written by a Vitalik. Oh. And I was like, that's funny. What's he up to now? And it's like clearly not Bitcoin only. So he's sold out. But then other articles are like Accenture, the world's largest consultancy by headcount. I'm like, yeah, I know Accenture.
Yeah.
And then you double click into it and you're like, oh, they're working with a digital agency here in New York. I'm like, oh, cool. Double click is Wall Street. Double click. I don't recognize any of these guys from Bitcoin Twitter. Oh, they're gonna do CBDCs and Web3 and blockchains that are private. It's just this nonsense. And I'm like, sure the ad is in Bitcoin magazine, but like that's not Signal.
Right.
And so the differentiation was, oh, these are my people.
Right.
So we are growing as an organization for Bitcoiners, knock on our door, talk to us, but also the opportunity. It is early. SMBs, right? In America, just saying America. We have people in Europe. I welcomed a guy from Argentina. Mm-hmm. We have people in El Salvador. We're global and our customers can be global. But if you just limit America, it's 33 million SMBs. There's not enough Bitcoin for each one to have one.
Yeah. And I think the interesting part when you're looking at, SMBs, generally not publicly traded, right? So not necessarily worried about shareholders.
Right.
Their focus is on long-term stability of the company. Mm-hmm. And usually, a lot of times, it's a family business. Yeah. Like you don't want to be the one that, my grandfather or grandmother, we have had this business in the family for 100 years. I come along, I've taken it, and inflation is killing us, and the business goes under. And that's my legacy, is that I put under the family business, right? Like times are tough. Everything is up in price. And you see this where folks can maybe take a little bit of a risk, like as opposed to trying to get it routed through shareholders to approve investing in Bitcoin, like like Microsoft recently did, and it got disapproved, right? You look at whether it's a chain of pizza shops in New York City. God, probably could have 1,000 of those that I've walked by in the past 2 days. That if they were to start saving in Bitcoin in their treasury and watching that grow as the price of tomato, sauce, dough increases, the impact of that is negligible. And all it takes is one decision maker, one person in the family to say, hey, look, this might be a better way that we can generate another 50 years of the family business, as opposed to how am I going to make payroll in the next 2 years at the cost of rising prices? How am I going to not pass on those costs to my customers and lose them? Those, I'm originally from Pittsburgh. Okay. And there used to be a lot of small businesses in the area where I grew up in the city, whether it's a hardware store who, hey, he charged a little bit more for parts, but that's because he couldn't compete with, the big, chain stores, right? And soon enough, the Walmarts of the world and others, they basically they crushed them because he could not afford to do business and meet their prices. And so you saw that happen all the time. We could talk about really any commodity type store, right? Whether it's from marijuana to fruits and vegetables to whatever, those mom and pops, they're going away. And I'm not from New York, so I can't say necessarily from New York, but in a place like Kentucky and, in the general area like that, where they're not a big city around you, that's all you have to rely on. They don't have that support system. That you will quickly lose businesses as people drive an extra 20 minutes to get to a Walmart or a Sam's Club or something like that to get the best price. And that's tough. You start seeing that, and that's family legacies that's going down the drain through inflation. So I think it's a great thing, and we're targeting, I think, the perfect audience for this.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So we had this debate last few weeks at Sovreign is, when you help a small business, is it chicken or egg? It's much easier to help a business if the owner operator is already a Bitcoiner. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, okay, step one, I get orange pilled, I do the work, I save in Bitcoin, I understand the value prop. Step two, I have a small business, a hot dog stand, mm-hmm. whatever it is. Yeah, maybe the balance sheet, I should stack some Bitcoin. I should save in Bitcoin. I should accept Bitcoin, right? There's all these I should pay my employees in Bitcoin. Right. There's all these things. We did the Steak and Shake in mm-hmm. Vegas, and Steak and Shake was a guest speaker in Vegas, and they followed up a month or two later, and they're like, we're saving on transaction fees, we got publicity, they're just winning on every single thing. And the user experience, the point of sale, the person that did the Lightning payment didn't know Bitcoin, didn't need any training. It was frictionless when I sent the Lightning thing. I didn't have to create an invoice. I just did the QR code. And I remember buying bottled water in Vegas in the heat, and I was tapping my credit card, and they're like, insert it, tap the chip, insert it. Yeah. That was more of a song and dance and friction than the Lightning payments. Not that anyone needs training for that other than just smiling. Yeah. But so industry agnostic, any business that saves in Bitcoin will have more runway. Yeah. This is the lifeblood. We talk about the hurdle rate. So you have Jack Mahlers and all the strategy people. By the way, I got this at the
beautiful
at the strategy opening. It's very cool. They have a merch shop, and it was cool. Yes. And so, what's the hurdle rate? If Bitcoin's CAGR is 60% on average over the last, let's call it 5 to 10 years, you can go more conservative to 30%. You can more aggressive, but just listen to that: 30%, 60%. So, what exactly are you going to do that's better than that? And by not allocating to Bitcoin, unless you're sitting on cash that you have to use in the very near term, you have to invest it to beat inflation. What is inflation? There's the official numbers, and then there's probably 15%. So these industry agnostic, whatever the industry is, I was talking to an owner operator who's already a Bitcoiner, thank goodness, and that's why it was an easy conversation. He said, if I had not saved in Bitcoin 3 or 4 years ago, this company would have gone out of business, and my investors would have just had to write this off. Yeah. My industry's in capital destruction. There was a lot of hype. Things haven't worked out the way we all thought it would. And I was like, wow, well, that's your differentiator, is you saved in Bitcoin, you saved your business. You should continue to save in Bitcoin. And now we're going to help them accept Bitcoin. So how do we get the Steak and Shake experience at fill in the blank retail shop? Yeah. And I'm like, that's cool. Let's get Lightning set up. Let's promote that. Let's get people to drive to your store, not the other, in a saturated market. And again, I'm like, industry agnostic. The key point is that he's a Bitcoiner and was already a Bitcoiner. And then one of the value adds that Sovreign adds, it says, if we have a Bitcoiner raise their hand, any business, small business, as well as actually a large corporation, what if you're a director of blank at a large corporation, but you're the Bitcoiner on a personal level? So I'd like to introduce a Bitcoin use case into this big company, but I'm alone. Yeah. I'm the only Bitcoiner at, Megacorp. So how do we plug into your organization and be like, what is the initiative? Let's do an educational webinar to your senior executives, to your stakeholders. you're not alone as the sole Bitcoin maxi. And so we can plug in as your fractional reserve Bitcoin experts. Yeah. And that's a really cool use case where if we have a very clear, hey, please help me set up a Lightning channel or help me accept Bitcoin payments. Okay, we can do that. But what we're also going to do is get the right team members to match your organization. And when I say right team members, some people are financial backgrounds, some people are technical, we have combinations. You know, the other day it was like, oh, is this a commercial real estate question?
Yeah.
We know a person, you know. Yeah. So what's great is we get to swarm on like all these different areas of expertise. I can mix and match people and personas, and it's really cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, and another part, if you're a Bitcoiner, maybe you feel this too, as you work in dollars, right? And you don't have cash to withdraw because the cash hasn't settled yet, right? Mm-hmm. Or the transfer, it takes 4 to 5 days to transfer, right? Bitcoin instant settlement, right? So, and I say that because look at healthcare. Let's say you're an urgent care office, you know, your family practice run by a doc, right? Veterinarian clinic or dental office. They operate on the insurance system. Like they may not get paid for 30 days for doing a procedure or seeing a patient. And a lot of times the money they're getting, it's a fraction of what they would get because of dealing with the insurance companies, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say a mom and pop shop or mom and pop, you know, or family practice, doctor, urgent care, whatever. Let's say they start accepting Bitcoin as payment, right? And maybe we say, hey, not only we'll accept Bitcoin, but maybe you get a premium. We'll get 10% off of your healthcare bill by using Bitcoin because it's instant settlement, right? And so now there's incentive for people to say, hey, I can save 10% if I pay upfront cash. I mean, we're not talking surgeries. We're not talking, you know, large scale doctor's office. So we're talking about, you know, I'm coming in for, you know, I don't feel well or get some medicine or, you know, all the urgent care type stuff, right? I can get 10% off by using Bitcoin, instant settlement. That's great for them. Great for the doctor's office. So now I have guaranteed money that I have already. I have Bitcoin already in the account. I don't have to worry about, hey, this is going to hit in 30 days until I have this money. So I got to make sure I spread out my budget to account for this. And I got to maximize the patients I see. Instead of seeing, I don't know, just keep it simple. Instead of seeing 10 patients in within 1 hour, maybe I can see 4 patients within an hour because I'm going to get the money that I'm charging. I'm going to get it immediately settled. I can spend more time with the patients and actually say, hey, look, we did the test, I looked over your record. Have we thought about this? I can spend more time as a doctor doing my job of diagnosing what you may or may not have. So the doctor's happier, less burnout, immediate funds. The patient's happier because they're spending more time with a doctor who's, I don't know, seems like they care about me. And I'm not just someone they need to get in and out, because I got to maximize the patients I got to see. It kind of brings back that feel that maybe my parents, but maybe my parents had, where you had a family doctor who would make house visits because they had time to do stuff like that and actually cared about their patients. That can be a long way.
Time preference?
Yeah, low time preference. Yeah. And I think you probably feel this. I feel this as a father. Like my goals for, you know, having wealth and to buy the best car, the biggest house, that's obviously changed. My goals for myself are to stack sats so that I can leave my kids the best possible life, and then they can leave that same stack that to continue to grow to their kids. And we kind of build this generational wealth for our family as they're not going to stop printing money. Yes. Things are not going to get easier. AI, who knows what that turns into. How do you protect your family for the long run? And the best way to do that is with the hardest asset there is today.
Yeah, well said. And you're taking your kids on a college tour.
Yes.
That's very cool. So you have the wealth to spend the time.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I lost my train of thought. I just remembered chicken or the egg. So let me finish this thought. So is it easier to help a business adopt Bitcoin if the person that reaches out to you is already a Bitcoiner? Yes. And that's where we've had some of our quick wins in the early days here is, hey, the owner operator who knocked on our door is a Bitcoiner. How do we help them with the business? Now, the chicken egg thing is to say, okay, someone says, I'm not a Bitcoiner. I'm open-minded. I'm not against it. I'm an owner operator. I just haven't put in the work, but I'm not a gambler. I'm not going to go into the casino. So, but also, hey, I'm also familiar with retainers for CPAs and lawyers, and so I will pay for help.
Mm-hmm.
So are you a professional person that can help me? And the answer is yes. And so what's cool is if you can find an owner operator says, I do want to do one use case. Let me take one step at a time. I do want to get into Bitcoin. And then I'm going to learn along the way too. So can we have your small business accept Bitcoin? And then in parallel, you can set up your own personal wallet.
Right.
We'll introduce you to the best in class exchange and talk about, single sig and multi sig and so forth. And you can say, okay, for the business, I'm going to do this and I'm going to follow along. And so you actually have like two parallel journeys. But again, you have it's like we're quarterbacks. We're going to help you on the projects. We're going to pass you to the right partners in the space. And if the project's over and you've been, referred into the right, like we might not hear from you for a while,
right.
But on the long frame, you'll come back and then we'll talk about the next phase. And so it's a long-term relationship. It doesn't have to be continuous per se, but it's interesting where I think about opportunity cost. It's 2025. We're so early. Right. But also people ask the question, hey, am I too late for Bitcoin? And it's like, are you too late to take care of your health? Are you too late to find true love? Are you too late to, you're never too late for good things.
Right.
Okay. You're not too late to Bitcoin. And also you have no perspective. It's like, oh, it's 16 years old. I missed the boat. No, you didn't. It's going to, we're going to 2140 and doesn't mean it's over. That's just the schedule. And so the whole point is like, you're not too late to Bitcoin. This is intergenerational. So people that don't have perspective, what's the opportunity cost of doing nothing? And so I think about that notion of like, get off of zero. If you have a business, stack some sats and watch over like a 3, 5, the 4-year halving cycle, but 4 to 5 years, if you can do that, see what happens. And so I'll give a quick example is Elon Musk pretends like he doesn't understand Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
but Tesla stacked 12,000 Bitcoin, back in 2020. And he was like tweeting with Michael Saylor. And then he sold some to test the liquidity. And I believe he's got 11,500, which puts him still like, and Tesla is a Magnificent 7 stock. So here's this example. Now we think 12,000 Bitcoin is a huge stack because it is, but proportionate to the richest man in the world, that was actually a conservative, I'll just put a few chips on the table. Yep. And you know what? Good for him.
Yeah. Because
he took action. He got off of zero. He tested liquidity. I joke that you should sell your Bitcoin, not all your Bitcoin. You should sell a little bit of Bitcoin once, just so you can have that sting. You can burn yourself on the stove and you'll never do it again. Just sell a little bit of your Bitcoin once and then you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's a good lesson. So here's Elon Musk, where I'm like, hey, it's 2025. You've had this stack. Now let's look at the objective reality, the results. Just like how Michael Saylor can do these graphs to say, I have outperformed the Magnificent 7. My strategy is better than your strategy. Like now, like he survived the bear market and he's not gloating. He's just saying like, I have a long enough time frame, 4 or 5 years of data. Like,
yeah. What I like to show for people who are questioning, because as a person who's not into Bitcoin, you're going to see 119,000 or 120,000, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Realize you could have bought it 2 weeks ago at 100, or a couple weeks before that at 80, or whatever the case was. And you say, I can't afford. One, they might not know that you can buy fractions of a Bitcoin, right? Satoshis. Mm-hmm. They might think you have to buy one whole Bitcoin, which it's not the case. The other end, what I like to show them is that strategy slide where it has Bitcoin at like $2 trillion, a little speck in the global, all 900 trillion of the assets.
Shout out to Jesse Myers for that infographic. Yes.
And I say, look, even if, and I point to cars, collectibles, art, gold, even if we say, if we're going to be super conservative and just say Bitcoin takes over the next 10 years, just 8 trillion away from all of that other $900 trillion worth of assets, right? And we're at $10 trillion asset, right? That's 5x what we're at right now. So when you look at it where we're at in the whole grand scheme of things, this asset is going to continue to grow. The most conservative approach to it, and again, even this couple trillion from gold, couple trillion you're still looking at a significant increase in the price of Bitcoin. And that's for those who maybe don't believe it or are very skeptical. For those of us maybe who are triple maxis, we see that and we start smiling from year to year because we can see the potential. So I think when people see like that graphic representation of where it's at now and where it can be, this isn't some random, crypto token that's gonna, what was a Luna that went from like whatever it was to zero in a day. This is not the case. This is a hard asset that is going to last forever. And I think I really love, and I'm going to screw this up, but Jack Mallers always talks about this, is, you get gold from the ground, you get Bitcoin from time. No matter how much the increase in value that Bitcoin goes, it's not going to change this issuing cycle. It's still going to be every 10 minutes, whatever the block reward is going to be. I can't put $1 trillion into more Bitcoin miners. It doesn't matter. It's going to come when it comes every 10 minutes. Whereas I could put $1 trillion to dig for more gold or dig for more oil or whatever the case is. I can put that. So it doesn't matter the price of gold. It doesn't matter the price of silver. There are ways to produce or to find more. You're not producing more Bitcoin than what's already on the schedule. You are fighting against time because that is not going to change. And I think that's when I heard him say that, I was like, wow, this is going somewhere. This is legit. I put as much money as I possibly can into this, and let's keep rolling. So, again, all of my Bitcoin knowledge is through some of the most brilliant people out there, and I copy them, so I give them credit. But I can't take credit for any singular thought on that.
Hashtag 40 hours per week of listening to podcasts. So we're listening to podcasts. I don't even have TV. I've unplugged. So it's like I'm on Twitter X, amplifying the signal. I'm absorbing stuff. I'm on the podcast. Like, this is my entertainment. I'm super into it. And so here we are absorbing the signal and listening to the brightest minds in Bitcoin. But then you step out of our echo chamber and you don't go to a Bitcoin conference and you realize, and again, Cornell's student club, they just did the survey, a global survey, and they said, 90% of Americans don't realize Bitcoin has a hard cap. And so how can you compare gold to Bitcoin if you don't know Bitcoin has a hard cap? And so the things that we know and take for granted, and I don't want to call myself an expert. I work in Bitcoin. I'm bringing my domain expertise from my prior professional experience, and I'm applying it to the Bitcoin space. But again, it's like, how am I an expert? I'm no Michael Saylor. I'm no, so, but if you step out to normie land or just, people in normal trad business, there's a lot of opportunity to help people. So we are so early. There's huge opportunity, and it's very rewarding to orange pill people, orange pill businesses, two at once, by the way. That's the chicken and egg thing. And a quick example is we had a person said, here's an example. I have two parents. They have a traditional business. They should just sell their business and retire, and they should sell their business and convert it to Bitcoin. But they don't understand Bitcoin, so this idea sounds risky and preposterous. Whereas I'm a younger millennial, and had they just done this 5 years ago, they would have had a stack that's this big, and then in dollar terms, it would have 10x'd in just the last 5 years. And they just won't listen to me because I'm their kid. They remember when I was in diapers. So even though I've done 50,000 hours of research and I am a Bitcoin expert, they're the ones with the capital and I'm just the kid. So without naming names, he actually joined our team and his parents met Brandon, the CEO. I said, well, let's have the CEO of our company, a traditional finance person, talk to your parents. Oh, by the way, for referral partners to Sovreign, chaperone, join us.
Yeah.
I had people at the Vegas conference like, I just want to make sure you're the real deal. And then I'm like, we are the real deal. Also join the calls with us. And I have a referral partner who's like a friend now. His parents are like, it's their business. And what do I do with, where should I go to stack my first sats? And I'm like, not only will we help them, you should join the call, tag along, make sure that they're getting white glove treatment, learn along with us, and then be a referral partner or join the team. And again, the more the merrier. So yeah, I just say all that we get caught in our echo chamber, and there's all these as we climb the mountaintop, there's all these lessons and epiphanies. And once you learn something you can't unlearn, you forget that other people don't know that.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, what is the greatest contribution we can give to society? It's like, well, help people. You've got the influencer guy, the life extension. I'm going to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
Kids born today are never going to die. They're going to be 150 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, if you start your new startup, if you capitalize, if you put Bitcoin on your balance sheet and you create a new company right now, I'm not saying your company will never die. I'm just saying you probably have more, since you're going to clear the hurdle rate of inflation, you have more of a runway. Mm-hmm. So imagine this: you've done everything wrong, or the world hits you with a left curve. Metaplanet was a hotel company, and then COVID happened. They could have gone out of business, and it's not their fault. I lived in New York during COVID. I live in a blue state that taxes people very high. It's hard to save. Had I not found Bitcoin and saved in Bitcoin, and then let Bitcoin protect my purchasing power, I would be in a high time preference hamster wheel. And so by experience, I'm like, I can tell you with my personal track record that Bitcoin will protect your savings, your purchasing power. And that's on an individual level, but if you put that into your business, you can make mistakes in your startup.
Right.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out product market fit. Yeah, but we have this stack. Oh, well, that's the reason why you have 2 more years of runway to make things work. Well, 2 years that's a life extension, And so these are really rewarding conversations to have.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got family who do real estate and they're very successful at it. And the idea of, and there's no knock on them, I think they're doing great, but knowing what we know, right? Like the idea of buying a rental property, we used to rent our house out years ago. We had tenants who were very difficult. They rotated in and out. Always maintenance issues. You still had property tax. You still had insurance. You had all these other things you're paying, when in reality, how we just sold it back then, which God, it was like 2011. And we just sold it back then and bought Bitcoin with the money. I mean, I probably would be on El Salvador right now, hanging out with some of the people. But instead, if we had it for 8 years and continue to deal with all the hassle and rent and then, had we had it over COVID, remember people weren't even paying rent in some cases, we'd have had to still make that rent payment and everything else. And so, it is, in my opinion, at this point, the risk factor going into Bitcoin versus any other asset is like zero. Like Bitcoin, to me, I can just buy it and hold it and let it do its thing. It can go up and down. That's okay. I think that's part of the, like Michael Saylor said, that's the feature, not a bug. Let it do its thing, collect sats, keep adding to your stack, and then let it grow. I mean, it's been one of the best things. I didn't buy in 2011. I wish I did. But, I bought early enough that watching it grow year after year, it's like, hey, it's doing its thing. I'm happy it's doing its thing. I'm never going to sell and just sit there, and I don't have to worry about trying to buy real estate. I don't have to worry about trying to buy collectibles and art and other things to store my wealth. And when you look at our savings, had I just had everything in a savings account as the purchase power continues to drop year after year after year, I mean, to me, it's been the best way for me and my family to continue to save and continue to make, the lifestyle we have available to us. So it's been awesome.
That's great to hear. Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to my colleague, Donovan Gibson. Mm-hmm. He is a consultant. He also is a professor at a university. And so he gets to interface with students and be a mentor, but also he's a consultant on our team. And he helped Orange Pill, an owner operator of a business, won't go into details other than helped someone get off of zero. Mm-hmm. And when they had the epiphany and took action, they stacked in size, which was like a really commendable stack size. And again, I don't even know this person yet. We're still trying to get permission for a case study and try to figure out what's appropriate. We'll see if this person's owner operator ends up on our podcast to promote themselves. They don't have to. But I'm just like, he's what a great service where he's helping this business person stack Bitcoin. And this person is new to Bitcoin. And this could be the game changer or the lifeblood for them for the next 5 years. And like, but the key thing is that they took action, because again, the joke is, hey, when did you hear about Bitcoin? And then when did you do something about it?
Right.
And that's that gap of regret is,
Right.
oh, I heard about it this time. And then years, I lived my life. And then 4 years later, and I'll tell you a quick story. When I was younger and in sales, I was like, I'm going to buy myself a Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that, I've been told that Rolex is a store of value.
Yeah.
Now I know a lot more about store of value.
Yeah.
And so I bought a used Rolex, pre-owned. And it was right about the time, like 2016, there's an election going on then. And I wore it a few times. Wore it to my wedding, some photos, and I don't like it. I don't wear it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell it back to the pre-owned place that's certified with the certificate. It's a legit place. Mm-hmm. And I think I broke even in dollar terms. And so then the next question is, what about inflation? Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, it's just a flat, not. I'm like, but what's the point though? It's not about the dollars. I got my dollars back. All right. So I've calculated, I went back to the time chain thing. Had I bought Bitcoin when I bought that used Rolex, how many Bitcoin would I have today?
Yep.
And it is not a store of value.
Yeah.
Let me just say that I could have had a house.
Yeah.
And so that's another way to measure. So we talk about the store of value. There's so many other people are saying it better than us, but we're seeing a big trend to say, you need to live in a home. You need to raise a family in a home. You need to have a forever home, not a McMansion that's a cash equivalent, but a forever home that's not an investment or store of value. It's just the place you truly live and raise your family. That's one thing. But the idea that everyone's going to be an Airbnb-er, right. And everyone's going to be an amateur hotel operator, right. And that maybe you have a lake house, that's fine. But if you have the lake house only to make rental income, so a lot of people are waking up to, we're getting calls to say, I want to sell my second, third, fourth properties because I would rather, there's less risk of just, having Bitcoin other than living in my core home. And I see that as a broader trend. One, the store of value premium for real estate is going away. Two, you can look at graphs for Rolexes, that's going away. And three, it's just a broader digital transformation. Yeah. It's a digital transformation of capital. So sell your chairs. Yeah. To take the value of your excess stuff and transform it into Bitcoin and have that be your store of value, wait 5 years and then form an opinion, and I can tell you, we can look at charts, we can look at the last 5, 10, 15 years. I wrote a post saying, go to Google and do US dollar over Bitcoin or Swiss franc or whatever you think a strong currency is, Norway or Euro over Bitcoin. Okay, now look at 5, 10, 15 years. Do you see the trend? And so as Max Kaiser says, everything is crashing, is going to zero in terms of Bitcoin. Mm. You think that you're clever by going to the casino and getting the other altcoins. The altcoins are up today in dollars. Put the altcoin with the denominator Bitcoin. They're all crashing to Bitcoin. So the point I'm saying is helping people with the mental model to think in Bitcoin, to say, not just stack sats and save in Bitcoin and use Bitcoin in your business. Can you think in Bitcoin? Can you stop thinking in fiat? We can help you with that. It's a new muscle. It's a new skill, but it can be learned. We can talk about it for free, but really it's to say we can prove it to you. Denominate everything in Bitcoin and see how you've unlocked the matrix code. Yeah. And so I'll stop there, but that's the core lesson is, are you denominating your gains of your Rolex, your house in dollars, or think it in Bitcoin?
Well, I would think also, and Russell Okung really kind of grew this out for athletes, pay me in Bitcoin. Look at a lot of the name, image, and licensing deals, right? I mean, they're multi-million dollars in some cases. These are young athletes, 18, 19, 20 years old, forget about if to make the pros and to get a great first contract. But a lot of these kids are just starting high school or about to go to in high school, about to start college, and they're getting multi-million dollars to play sports, right? So, in many cases, maybe they're taking care of their family first and then also buying, a Rolex or buying the most expensive brand new car. Well, maybe if instead of putting all of that into a depreciating asset. What if they put a fraction of that into Bitcoin, or maybe their contract pays them partially in Bitcoin? I could say if my daughters, if they were to ever get an NIL deal, putting it into Bitcoin would probably be the best thing we could possibly do. They don't need money right now. They're going to college, or they will be going to college. All their expenses will be paid for food and everything else while they're there. In 5-6 years, whatever the case is, that Bitcoin that is $100,000, $119,000 today, if they're to be paid that, and in 6 years, what's it going to be worth? I think having that kind of a mindset, especially for athletes, and it's kind of like the military, like myself, a lot of us in the military, usually, but if you retire in the military, you do 20 or 30 years. I could tell you after retiring after 20 years at 43 or 44, I was kind of like, well, what do I do now? I have a whole long life ahead of me. Like, this is confusing and this is all I know. Was that part of my life? And so an athlete, same way. I mean, their playing career could be college, could be 1 or 2 years in the pros. What do they do with the rest of their life? Did they take advantage of that small window of time to make money and put it to use? Now, you could say invest in certain companies and index funds or whatever. Those are, whatever. If you want to do that, that's fine. But with Bitcoin, there's no CEO. I don't have to worry about a company going out of business. I don't have to worry about funds crashing from something else and never coming back because it was maybe a poor investment choice that I heard about off some, ex-guru who's telling me, hey, this company's the next great, it's the next Facebook, or it's the next Apple or whatever. And I put all this money into it and then it turns out to be nothing, right? So I think by putting money, or you're putting that money into Bitcoin or getting paid in Bitcoin and saving that and holding that could extend the life of your purchasing power for an athlete. And then I would say this, and Russell Kuhn brought up this point, so I can't say this. He has firsthand experience of this, right? You take a football player, they are obviously all playing hurt, right? You're crashing headfirst into other athletes game after game after game, and you're doing this and you're trying to prolong your career, so you keep taking those head hits, you keep taking those body injuries, you keep doing these things because you want to keep making that money progress your career. Well, now if I'm getting paid in Bitcoin as that continues to grow, maybe I don't have to take all those head injuries. Maybe I don't have to, put my body through such stress. And so not only does it enhance the purchasing power of an athlete down the road, potentially adds years to their life, which, I think after your playing time, kind of like after military for me, it was like, holy crap, there's a whole other world out here that I have no exposure to. These athletes, this is the first time they've been away from, football or basketball since they were probably 5 years old. So it's something to think about as an athlete, because as an athlete, I think you're your own business, and something to think about for those folks as they go through this.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Athletes are by definition entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they'll probably have like a team to help them with some of the finances, but a lot of them are independent enough to be bold. And I'm glad you brought that up. I did an episode with Donovan, the colleague, and one of the things was, hey, we don't have a business guest, so tell me about yourself. I'm a professor, I'm a father, I'm a mentor. And so we talked about what advice would you give to a college student? And also, what would you give advice to a parent of a college student? And let's assume the parent here is not a Bitcoiner already. And our conversation was around like, stack some sats, but live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't drop out of college. Just, I was saying like, for $1,000, you can have 1 million Satoshis. Mm-hmm. Don't underestimate 1 million Satoshis in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And so then also like education about the halvening cycle. So I talk about how whenever you get your commission check or your
NIL deals or something.
NIL deal, whenever you get your cash, convert it to Bitcoin as soon as possible. And whatever epoch you're in is whenever you find Bitcoin and do something about it, the first epoch is your greatest opportunity. Because, the halvening, you should never stop stacking, but the whole point of the halvening every 4 years is that like, people are like, oh, I wish I had, X amount with more zeros. It's like, well, they showed up at a different epoch than you. Yeah. It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
And but that goes back to like, am I too late? And, but don't compare and despair. But one of the things for students is time's on your side. The worst thing a student can do is say, I'm too late and do nothing when they got everything on their side. Usually they don't have money though.
Yeah. So
if you have a summer job, get $1,000, 1 million Satoshis. If you're an athlete and you get paid this is Donovan and I did not talk about athletes.
Yeah.
And then we do have colleagues on our team that know more about it than others, like John Bolcom. And
Yeah.
so it's always great where I'm like, did I hear athlete? Did I hear entrepreneur? Like, it's like, I know who to call and just say like, that's who you should really talk to go deep. But yeah, I mean, a student athlete is basically a professional who's young.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool opportunity. And the other conversation is like, how much should I put into Bitcoin? We're having a business conversation. I'm going to start a new business. I'm getting investors. I'm going to capitalize. And it's like early call. We haven't even made decisions. What do you guys say? 50%? And I'm like, well, we don't know who you are yet. Mm-hmm. And we need to understand your risk profile, your investors. What's your burn rate? Like there's questions. And then the question is, maybe it's 25%.
Yeah.
But just think about that. So if the outcome is 25% saved in Bitcoin, 75% of cash, operation, whatever, but you're off of zero. And that 25%, again, give us a few years to measure it. Like we can do a lot in there.
For sure.
So yeah, these are great conversations to have. And it's so cool to like bring your kids into it as like real examples.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they get, I didn't grow up with having a whole lot of financial information as a kid, they didn't really teach it in the schools. And so I feel it's incumbent upon myself to teach them about money, teach them about savings, teach them about saving in Bitcoin and how the inflation impacts them and their purchasing power. So I think it's really important to start young. I think this new generation is more tech savvy than it was when I was growing up. A lot of the old fiat, ways of doing things are coming to a head. And so I think this new generation is seeing that maybe more than I saw it or my parents saw it. And so I think this will be the generation that really takes it to the next level. We are starting to get the policy and regulations in place and everything else that'll probably bring in more of your traditional investors, your business, stuff like that. But I think this new generation, what they are growing up in and around will probably take us to a whole nother level. So I'm excited for them, excited for the future. And instead of fearing AI, fearing what work looks like in the future, fearing what the financial impacts are, they can grow up in a world where they're excited and can see a bright future. And so this is what I'm hoping for them. And I think that they'll be one of the leads in that process.
Well said. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. This has been a Bitcoin for Business podcast, an internal riff between two Sovreign colleagues, Joe McGee, Jeff Newman. And just as a reminder, the Bitcoin Business podcast is an open platform for our customers, our partners, for Bitcoiners who are enjoying the benefits of integrating Bitcoin into their businesses and telling their story. So we hope to hear from you, and please reach out. Thanks so much.